Hello, everyone. My name is Lily. Welcome to my channel. And we are on Reddit. We're going to read a Reddit post. My girlfriend died due to anorexia, and I know that I'm to blame. I can never forgive myself for this. And it's called Remorse. My girlfriend and I had been dating for the past 3 years. She was the most beautiful girl I'd ever known. She was truly good on the inside and out. But when her anorexia got worse, instead of forcing her to get help, I let her starve herself by ignoring the situation just like her parents. I just didn't intervene and force her to eat. I didn't encourage her to stop eating either. I did just the same as her parents and stayed neutral to the situation, even though she clearly needed help. I used to offer her food whenever she came over, and she'd always refuse. I knew she was anorexic, but I didn't do enough to change that. Just asking her if she wanted food wasn't enough, and deep down, I think I knew she wasn't going to accept the food anyway, and found it arousing when she clearly just was skin and bones. I am worse than her parents. Her parents said nothing because they didn't want to upset her, but I said nothing because I have an anorexia fetish. They thought that she'd never die. They thought that she'd die, never, no, the thought that she'd never die crossed my mind. I thought that the worst that would happen is she would be hospitalized and they'd force her to get better. She slipped into a coma when we were sleeping. We had just had sex the night before and she seemed fine. Maybe not fine, but fine by her standards. She got rushed to the hospital the following day but didn't make it. I feel disgusted and ashamed in myself. I am worse than scum. I feel sick with guilt. I can't sleep. My family and hers are being so supportive towards me, but I don't deserve it. I'm not the nice boyfriend they think I am. I can't even face to go to her funeral. I know I didn't encourage her, but the fact that I found her eating disorder a turn on and it eventually killed her makes me sick with guilt. I should have done something, but I let my messed up fetish dictate my actions. If I had just forced her to get help, she would have been lived. I'm thinking about killing myself. Nothing I do will ever be good enough. I failed her, and I will never be able to live with this. I can't even tell anyone because they would see me for the scum I truly am. My fetish ruined my life and hers. My only regret in life is that I let it stop me from doing what was right. Maybe if I'd supported her or first forced her to get help, she would still be with me today, and we could have spent the rest of our lives together. Don't feel bad about speaking your mind. Say everything you need to say. I deserve to be judged. I don't deserve the life I'm living. This thread is archived. New comments cannot be posted, and votes cannot be cast. Sorry, man, my condolences. It's a shitty, and then someone else said, it's a shitty thing to do, but it's not your fault. You can't be held responsible for her choices. As long as you never encouraged her, I don't think you are to blame. Hopefully, you can do something positive to alleviate the guilt you are feeling and to help you feel worthy of living. Maybe you could donate your time to a cause you feel passionate about. That's good advice. That's really good advice. I believe that nobody is beyond help, but understand that you may not be able to save her. Saving someone from their eating disorder is incredibly difficult. It's a war she's been fighting for likely her entire life, and it was much bigger than you or I. I feel like I could go for hours. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. I feel like I could go for a few hours calling you a sack of shit, but you've clearly shown acknowledgement for what you've done, and you know that it was wrong. It's no longer needed, nor even fair for anyone to tear into you about it. I think what you need to do now is talk to a therapist and find a way to move past her fate and put the whole shitty situation behind you. All it is now is a relic of you being a cunt, and if you recognize that you were a cunt, then you are on the first step towards redemption. This is a bit of a wake-up call for me. If you don't mind me asking, what was her BMI or height, weight around this time? I have an ED, and although I want to keep losing, this is really scary for me. I don't want to ever put my loved ones through this. Also, of course, there's always more than we can try. There will always be could've, should've, would've. There is always regrets that come with loss and with life. That's so sad. Just so sad. Really, really. Sounds weird, dude. On one hand, I feel like it's not your fault and you can't force someone, but if you encouraged it at all, then it's really fucked up. The fact you said you thought she was just get hospitalized for it is still very messed up, dude. You might not have wished her dead, but you certainly didn't have her interest at heart. If you were willing to accept her getting hospitalized, maybe that's not exactly what you meant. If you do feel like you were in the wrong, then make amends for it by helping people who are suffering from her condition. Volunteer someday. Share your experience publicly because it might help others. Volunteer, something like that. Think about it. And then, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when we try to force someone to get help, we end up alienating them. And instead of getting help, they pull away from us. You could have gently encouraged her to get help, but who knows what kind of emotional reaction she would have had to that. You will never know, but ultimately she did starve herself. You didn't starve her. I don't think killing yourself will do her any justice, but you know what? Life has a funny way of giving us second chances. And who knows, the lesson you learned here may give you the capability to help some other people who really need help. So instead of remaining in a space of self-loathing, start helping people. Do whatever you can to make the world a better place. Be a support system for someone who doesn't have anything. Sometimes the best things we ever do come from making the worst mistake of our lives. Someone else said, I second this. Another comment, at least you show remorse instead of, hurting yourself. You should help out other people in need and stuff like that, then maybe you could forgive yourself. Judging from this post, you seem like a good person. You didn't kill her directly. Don't go on in life beating yourself up. Deleted says, wow, I am recovering bulimic and my husband is extremely supportive, even when I sometimes wish he wasn't. Like another commenter said, we all know you can't force someone to start recovering until they are ready. But you just neglected her while she was starving to death because it gave you a fucking boner. And that is really selfish and disturbing. Anorexia is the most deadly mental illness. And before the dying comes, the years and years of hating yourself and being completely miserable. I started out anorexic. It's hell on earth. All eating disorders are. No, you can't make someone eat. No, you can't convince someone with an ED that they are fat, that they aren't fat, or that they are beautiful. But you can do a damn sight better than making bullshit little efforts. You knew she would refuse you, so you keep fucking her skeleton? I'm sorry to clap, but I mean, they called it. That's really selfish. You're now, I'm not going to sit here and hate on anybody because if this is a true story, and we don't know if it's true or not, we don't know. But if it is a true story, it gives us the insight of someone who was with someone with an ED. And if it's a true story, they lost their spouse, their girlfriend. And what makes it so horrible is the fact that he was getting turned on by her disorder. To the point that instead of doing anything to help her to keep getting that fetish, he just let it go on and he neglected her. Anorexia fetishists, some of them, they do get turned on by the physical appearance of how small, skinny, bony, frail, sickly a person is. But there are some who get turned on by how unhealthy, emotionally, that the person with ED is. And some that get turned on by knowing the person with the ED, say their heart's weak or they can't hardly breathe or they're struggling to breathe. There are anorexia fetishists who get off on that. And they enjoy the fact that that person with ED can't breathe and is weak and has a faint heartbeat. You wouldn't believe these things, but trust me, this is true. Anorexia fetishists exist. And now what I say to this is, never ignore it. Never neglect someone with an ED and do not enable them. Because, my friend I've mentioned many times who passed with ED, she go to the bathroom, do the thing. My sweet support baby. So sweet. But my friend, we gave her toxic positivity, and which is where we would tell her that she looked fine, she was healthy looking when she wasn't. We would try to lift her up and be positive when we should have been, telling the truth. And I think that is what's really, besides my own ED and what I've dealt with for years, I think that's one thing that's pushing me so much is knowing that I neglected my friend. And that's why I try not to do that now with people. I try to tell them the truth and be honest and say, hey, there's a problem. You're sick. You need to go ASAP and get help before something bad happens, because it can happen. It can. And I've seen it firsthand. And when the organs start to fail, and it doesn't even have to just be organ failure. It can be dehydration. It can be the loss of vitamins. It can be the bones getting so brittle and weak that they break and you break your back or break your leg. Just so many different things that come from ED. Losing all your teeth or dental diseases. Dental diseases like tooth decay and stuff affect the heart and the blood and blood infection. It's all, your body is connected. If there's something going on up here, it connects to the rest of your body. If there's something going on in your hand, it connects here into the rest of your body. So it's very important to make sure you try your best to get help for someone who needs it. And if you are an anorexia fetishist and you have a girlfriend who is sickly and you're getting off on her being sick, you better get her help. You need to think about her and her well-being over your erection. And you both need to get help, because if you are getting off on an anorexia fetish, then you need help too. And I'm not being funny or mean. I'm not doing that. I'm being serious. If you are an anorexia fetishist, I hope I'm saying that right. But if you are, you need mental help the same way your spouse does for the anorexia. Even if you don't have a spouse with anorexia, if you're just getting off on people with anorexia, you need to get help for yourself. That's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor. Never claimed to be. But that was just one of the Reddit posts I was going to read, and I will see you guys again soon. Leave your thoughts in the comments.